Hey everybody, ronarray here, and PAtchnotes just dropped today, and as expected, a lot of things has been changed or nerfed. In this video, I want to go over all the skills that suffered the most. Hope they're not the skills that you wanted to play in the new league, and this video will be able to help you to pick the skills that are actually not nerfed into the ground. Click on the timestamps to check particular skills and to listen to my opinion about how the changes will affect the current meta. Let's go! So first off, let's talk about the skills that have been completely deleted from the game. And first off, it's Green Fist. Green Fist is no longer be engraved in the gems cutting menu. Existing Green Fist gems have been disabled, and GG will try to rework Green Fist in the coming future. Right now, without Green Fist, it's going to be a very big issue to regenerate Energy Shield constantly, and I think Energy Shield builds will be significantly less tanky. Following Green Fist, Shock Siphon has also been deleted from the game, so we won't be able to try and use it instead of Green Fist, even if it wasn't even that popular before. Skeletal Warrior can also no longer be engraved in the gems cutting menu, and it was only provided as a stopgap until functionality was implemented. Right now, existing copies of the Skeletal Warrior skill gem will be turned into Skeletal Sniper. The Skeletal Warrior skill granted by some of the Scepters now allow you to summon additional skeletons by reserving Spirit. So that's a pretty decent change for the League starter minions. Right now, instead of receiving Skeletal Warriors from your weapon, you're going to receive additional skeletons overall. And it will probably lead to small changes, especially at starting levels, but nothing too big, because Skeletal Warriors never played a very big role in the minion ecosystem. There's also stuff that's been nerfed, but not completely deleted. However, most of it is not really playable. First off, it's Hammer of the Gods. It no longer has a cooldown which could look like a buff, but now it requires 20 glory to use. What is glory, you will ask? Glory is a resource that gets built up by heavy stunning enemies. The amount of glory gained is based on the stunned monster power. And right now, to use Hammer of the Gods, for example, when you are fighting the boss, you will need to heavy stun that boss. I hope at least once, at worst maybe a few times. And Hammer of the Gods cannot be used to just instantly delete bosses anymore. However, it still could be a nice thing to clear them up with, so I don't think it's completely destroyed. Archmage also took a hit and now causes non-channeling spells to gain 3% of damage as extra lightning for each 100 mana, and previously it had 6%. It also have higher cost right now, so 6% against 5% before, and quality also provides reduced reservation instead of additional damage for each 100 mana that you have. With such nerfs, Archmage is losing a pretty decent chunk of damage. I still think it's going to be playable and Archmage builds are probably going to stay, but craziness that Archmage been able to create before right now is pretty much gone. And since Archmage is taking a hit, a lot of people thought about Spark, and if Spark will be nerfed, possibly about Arc as well. But for some reason, GG decided to nerf Arc too, even if not a lot of people even played that. Arc right now no longer deals more damage for each remaining chain, and chains 6 to 8 times instead of 2 and 5 times. Quality also not providing additional bonuses for damage anymore, and now you're receiving significantly less damage, so Arc basically losing a very big chunk of damage but will chain more times, so right now it still could be used like a clear skill, but definitely not going to be good against a single target. Going forward, GG also decided to nerf a Flameblast. It now has 15-second cooldown, previously there been no cooldown at all, and 75% more damage per stage only, previously it's been 200. It now also has an explosion radius of 0.6 meters per stage and previously it's been 0.4, and quality provides more cast speed, which is a little higher than it's been before, so 20 against 10%. All of that together is making Flameblast barely playable, because there's less damage, there's a huge cooldown, and it wasn't even that popular, so right now Flameblast is pretty much dropping into total obscurity. Another victim right now is Hexblast. Hexblast can now only detonate cursors for which at least 50% of the duration has expired. This means it can never explode cursors that have infinite duration, for example from an aura. Curse orbs will be visually different when 50% of the curse duration has expired and if you have Hexblast equipped. The explosion radius has been increased and amount of explosions per cast reduced, so now it's 3 against 9, which is a pretty big issue. So with such changes, Hexblast could be barely useful. Before, you've been able to just detonate cursors which provided by an aura, and it been not even that clunky. Right now you will need to self-cast the cursors it seems, and cast Hexblast manually after self-casting the cursors. It's creating a very bad situation right now, because with such changes Hexblast is barely playable and Hexblast is a very popular build for leveling. So if you wanted to play something chaos, drop the idea with Hexblast right away. Another skill that got hit heavily is pretty much Spark. Spark now fires only 4 to 9 projectiles, and previously it's been 6 to 14, so we lost about 5 projectiles, which almost a half of that. And it also has no longer increased projectile speed. Quality now also provides only increased projectile speed instead of additional projectiles. So if before with the maximum quality you had about 18 projectiles, right now you have only 9. So amount of projectile been literally halved. I think it's going to create a very big issue for Spark, but the skill build is that strong, so I think it still will be playable. But nerf of Archmage together with Spark is pretty much making Stormweaver is not that good, as I guessed in my tier list before. There's also a change for Volcanic Fissure. It now has a limit of 8 concurrent fissures on the ground, and the aftershocks no longer erupts other fissures. It's not going to completely destroy that skill, but Volcanic Fissure is definitely not looking that amazing anymore. So now let's talk about other things that have been nerfed but not completely destroyed. First off, it's Detonate Death. It now deals physical damage equal to 10% of corp maximum life, and previously it's been 20. It's also scaling a little more fire damage in general, and you will be able to deal a little more fire damage at the low level. But at the high level you're going to deal less fire damage, so you lost both corpse maximum life as additional damage and fire damage at level 20. Detonate that damage for bosses before being very high, so maybe it still will be playable, but it definitely took a hit. Another thing that is nerfed is pretty much Cast on Shock. It now gives only 1 energy per power of enemies you shock with. Previously it's been 2. I don't think it's going to stop most of the builds from using Cast on Shock, because it always has so much energy for builds that can attack fast enough that it never been a very big issue. However, just spamming it could be a little harder right now. Combat Frenzy also got hit and now has a gain Frenzy charge when you freeze, electrocute or pin an enemy no more than once every 4 seconds at the maximum level, and before it's been 1.5 seconds, so you're going to receive less charges in general, and it's probably going to affect Amazon a little because it's connected with generation. But Hateforge is not changed, and I think Combat Frenzy still could be playable in some particular situations. Another thing is gas grenades, gas arrow and decompose now have a limit of poison clouds. It's not a very big change, but it could affect quality of life too. The poison cloud also get lower radius per second up to only 80%, and before it's been 200%, so it feels like a nerf. Another change is the on-kill effects on Herald skills can no longer trigger from kills caused by Herald skills, so you can chain double Heralds like we did before, and that change been expected for a very long time, and I don't think it's going to change meta too much. Tempest Bell is also changed. Now impact itself is dealing more attack damage, 490% instead of 316, but now it requires 10 combos to use, previously it's been 4, and the bell is destroyed after 10 hits at all gem levels, previously it's been 19. So generally you will need more combos to use the bell, and the bell will be destroyed faster. But the biggest changes right here is just that Tempest Bell can only trigger a shockwave every 250 milliseconds, so 4 hits in a second. This value right now is a strict limit, and before it's been completely unlimited. It's a very big change because the meta for Bell before been hitting it many times in a very short amount of time, and it worked pretty good. Right now, with additional limitation, Tempest Bell is definitely losing a huge chunk of the damage. However, since it's been very strong, I'm still absolutely sure that Bell will be playable, even if it will be heavily nerfed like that. Also, Tempest Bell limit on number of bells placed is now shared between different copies of the skill, and you can't play multiple bells on top of each other. Wind Dancer is also now granting more EV generating per stage, like only 10% more, and before it's been up to 19 at the maximum level, so it nerfed in about half. And gain stage only once in like 1.1 second, and previously it's been 1.3 seconds, so a little faster. There's also small changes to Gale Force, but I don't think those are really important. However, we are going to receive less evasion from Wind Dancer, and most of the builds that are using it are a little affected. There's also a little interesting part for Overcharge nerf. Overcharge support no longer causes supported skill to have less shock duration, it now has shocks caused by supported skills are reflected back to you. Generally, it's not really nice, because you will be shocked, you will receive more damage, and it not sounds cool. But maybe we will be able to see self-shock builds based on some cool new unique, and it has some promise, like in theory. There's also some particular nerfs to the supports. Brutality now causes supported skill to deal only 25% more physical damage, and previously it's been 35, so 10% nerf. Cannibalism now provides only 2% of life recovered on kill, and before it's been 4, so cannibalism is nerfed as well. Close combat now has 120% cost multiplier, and previously it's been 140, so I would say that's a little buffed, and maybe more active skills will use it. But Crescendo, on the other hand, has 120% cost multiplier, and previously it's been just 100, so that change is definitely going to hurt. They also nerfed Hourglass. Right now Hourglass causes supported skills to deal 30% more damage, and previously it's been 40. It wasn't even that popular and mostly been used for leveling, so I don't really know why GG decided to get rid of it. Also, Magnified Effect is nerfed as well. It now has only 30% of more area of effect, and previously it's been 40. Also, cost multiplier for it is also going up, it's 130 instead of 120. And one of the biggest changes for bow and bow related skills, its Scattershot support now has supported skills deal 35% less damage, and previously it's been 20. So 15% less damage is a pretty big downside, but thanks God Scattershot is mostly used with skills which are not heavily affected by it. Another change right here is Spell Eco support can no longer support triggered skills, which is pretty sad, because before you would be able to trigger the command together with a spell echo, even if it's going to eat a lot of mana. There's also some particular change to uniques which been nerfed heavily. The biggest one of them is probably Adziri Disdain, which right now has only 10% of damage taken by Passive Energy Shield, previously it's been 25, and that's a pretty big change. It also now gains only 10 to 15% of maximum life as extra maximum energy shield, and previously it's been like 25 to 30. So that change is going to make Adziri Disdain significantly less desirable. Hand of Wisdom in action got nerfed like literally by half. Right now it provides the same amount of damage per 20 intelligence, before it's been per 10, and only 1% increase of attack speed per 20 dexterity, previously it's been 3% per 25, so attack speed with Hand of Wisdom in action is definitely fallen down. And Ingenuity been nerfed so many times that we will literally need to recheck how it's even looking after all the changes. GG been nerfing Ingenuity live even after patch notes already came out and they changed the numbers again. So right now, with the last change, Ingenuity provides 20 to 30 increased bonuses gained from equipped left ring and 20 to 30 increased bonuses gained from equipped right ring. It also now gives +1 or 2 charm slots, increased charm chance gained, and up to 10% reduced charm charges used. So it's mostly charm belt now. Well, it's kinda hard to just pronounce that. So generally that change is making Ritualist significantly less cool, because Ingenuity is not going to buff your third ring, and Ingenuity itself is only going to provide 30% of bonuses, which is pretty small, and in the many builds it will be replaced by other options. I hope GGG will just add another cool unique belt that will be a chasing item and that we all will use, maybe not all, but at least for some particular builds. So most of those changes are going to cap some particular endgame builds, and some others are strange even for me, but maybe GG just know a little more about incoming meta that we know about that. However, a lot of things still survived, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot of cool new builds in the upcoming new league. Thank you very much for watching, and ronarray out.